Be careful, human. I am not just any woman. I am the queen who chose you. The trade station floated silently in the void at the edge of known space. It was nothing special, just a cluster of docking bays, cargo holds, and living quarters, buzzing with the endless motion of traders, engineers, and travelers from dozens of star systems. To most, it was a place to pass through. But today, the station would witness something extraordinary. Elias Ward was standing near the main control hub, checking the station's energy grid. He was a human systems engineer, sent only to maintain systems, not to meet dignitaries. His life had been ordinary, born on Earth, trained in technology, and now drifting through space as one of the youngest engineers trusted with alien tech. Nothing about him seemed remarkable. At least no one thought so, except one person. The station shook slightly as a massive ship approached. Unlike the small freighters and transporters Elias was used to, this vessel was enormous, dark, and angular. Its hull gleamed with a strange metallic shimmer that seemed alive, reflecting the light of distant stars like moving water. Every alien on the station froze. Ships were rarely allowed to dock here without warning, but this one had arrived without clearance. "They call this the Queen's flagship," whispered a merchant from the docking bay, his voice trembling. "Virelith, none survive her wrath unless she allows it." Elias glanced at the massive ship, feeling a strange curiosity. He had read the files, of course. Queen Virelith of the Astrix Dominion was feared across hundreds of systems. Entire civilizations had fallen simply because her fleets arrived too late, or she found a ruler unworthy. Tales of her cruelty filled every corner of galactic space, but also stories of her strange wisdom. And now here she was, docking for reasons no one could know. The station shook again. An alarm rang, energy readings spiked. Something was wrong. Elias' eyes widened as he ran toward the control hub. He quickly realized the problem. The Queen's personal life support field, the invisible bubble protecting her ship's internal systems from radiation and other hazards, was failing. If it collapsed while docked, the Queen herself would be in danger. Panic erupted around him. Aliens from dozens of species scrambled, unsure what to do. Some hid, some muttered prayers, some considered fleeing, but no one acted, not one. Elias stepped forward, heart pounding, hands already moving over the interface. Human technology was not as advanced as the Queen's, but humans had something others often lacked: improvisation. He adjusted energy flows, rerouted power, and synchronized the ship's auxiliary shields with the station systems. Sparks flew, lights flickered, sweat rolled down his temple. Every second felt like a lifetime. Then came the voice. "You do not fear me, human?" It was deep, melodic, yet commanding. Even with the life support field partially down, the voice seemed to fill the entire hub. Elias froze. Then, without thinking, he spoke. I respect you, your majesty. But fear won't fix this." His hands moved faster, recalibrating nodes. "This will work, just hold steady." The hub went silent. Even the alarms seemed to pause. The Queen herself, appearing on a monitor, stared at him with violet eyes that glimmered like stars. She did not blink. She did not frown, she simply watched. Then, as if satisfied, she gave the slightest nod. The system stabilized. The lights returned to normal. The alarms shut off. The Queen's personal shield was fully functional again. And Elias, exhausted and trembling, realized he had just done the impossible. He had saved the most feared being in the galaxy, and he had done it without bending or bowing. "You are bold," she said finally. "Bold enough to speak to me as though I am not a monster." "I only speak what is true," Elias replied simply. "You are powerful, but alone even a queen needs help, and I can help." The Queen's lips curved slightly, a motion so subtle many species would have missed it, but humans notice small details. "You have drawn my attention, human," she said softly. "Be careful, the galaxy is not kind to the bold." Before Elias could respond, the screen went dark. Her ship disengaged and floated to the docking bay. The station crew slowly returned to normal, but the air was tense. Whispers filled the corridors. The human still lives. Most aliens could not understand why. Some claimed it was luck. Others said it was madness. Elias knew it was neither. It was a choice to act when everyone else hesitated. The next day, the news spread. Galactic networks buzzed with speculation. Elias' actions were recorded in a dozen official logs, and every news outlet across the system replayed the footage of him fixing the life support system without fear. Humans were considered weak by most species. Yet here was one, standing boldly in front of a queen feared by billions and living to tell the tale. Elias returned to his quarters, but sleep did not come easily. He kept thinking about her, the queen, not her power, not her reputation, but her presence. Something about her gaze had been different. It was not only commanding, it was curious. And curiosity, Elias thought, could be dangerous. 2 days later, he received a summons he did not expect. A message, unlike any he had seen before, arrived directly to his personal interface. Elias Ward, come to the Queen's flagship. You have something to discuss. Refusal is unwise. Elias read the message twice. Every instinct in his body screamed danger. Every officer on the station would have refused immediately. Every human diplomat would have hesitated. Yet he felt a pull stronger than fear. He felt responsibility. Time to see if the galaxy is ready for a human, he muttered and left for the docking bay. The Queen's ship was breathtaking up close. Its hull shimmered with a living pattern, like metal and light fused together. Its scale dwarfed the station. Airlocks opened with quiet precision, and a human-sized shuttle descended to meet him. Inside, the corridors were unlike anything Elias had imagined. Smooth, organic walls that seemed to pulse slightly, echoing the rhythm of a living heartbeat. Lights shifted subtly, responding to movement. And then at the end of a long hallway she appeared, Queen Violet herself. She was tall, taller than most humans could comprehend. Her posture was regal. Her clothing was a flowing mix of armor and ceremonial fabric, shimmering with colors that shifted like liquid. Her eyes were violet, like twin stars that had burned for centuries. And yet there was a softness in them, a faint human-like quality that made Elias' heart skip. "You came," she said simply. Her voice did not carry malice, it carried curiosity. "I did," Elias replied. "I was summoned." She studied him silently. Minutes passed like hours. Then she spoke again. "Humans are strange creatures. They fear what they cannot fight. They fight what they fear, and yet they also act without thought for themselves. You acted not for glory, you acted for me." Elias blinked. "I acted because it was the right thing to do." "Few do what is right," she said. "Most do what keeps them alive, most bow." He did not bow, he did not shrink. He only met her gaze. "Then perhaps most of your people are not ready for a human, but I am." The Queen stepped closer. Her presence filled the hallway. "Perhaps, or perhaps, you are the first human I have ever seen worth knowing." Elias did not respond. Words seemed useless. He only hoped his presence and honesty were enough. She tilted her head slightly, a gesture that was almost playful. "You have drawn my attention, Elias Ward. The galaxy may be cruel, but you are something different. Be careful, human. Being different attracts both favor and danger." Over the next few hours, she showed him her ship, its war rooms, command bridges, even her personal quarters. Elias was allowed to inspect and understand her technology, and yet every moment with her was tense. Her questions were sharp, probing his knowledge, his courage, and his perspective on life. Every answer he gave, every action he took was observed. By the end of the day, Elias realized something profound. He was no longer just a human engineer. He had become part of something far bigger than he had ever imagined. Not because he sought power, but because he had chosen honesty and courage over fear. As he left the flagship, she said once more, "Remember, human, I am not just any woman, I am the Queen. And I chose to notice you." Elias paused. He felt the weight of those words, not fear, not arrogance, but a responsibility he had never felt before. Humanity had been considered small, weak, and insignificant, yet here he was. A human, chosen by the most powerful being in the galaxy, alive because he acted with courage. And something inside him knew that this was only the beginning. The station returned to its usual hum, but nothing was normal anymore. Traders whispered about the human who dared to speak without fear. Aliens shook their heads, unsure how the Queen's attention could fall on one mortal being. And Elias simply prepared for what he did not yet understand, that the galaxy had just opened a door to humanity it had never imagined. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. "Be careful, human. I am not just any woman, I am the Queen who chose you." And Elias smiled. Because for the first time, being human felt like a strength, not a weakness. The corridors of Queen Violet's flagship were silent, except for the soft hum of energy flowing through the living metal walls. Elias walked beside her, his steps echoing in rhythm with the ship's heartbeat-like pulse. He had spent hours exploring the ship the day before, but today was different. Today, he was not just a visitor. He was summoned officially as the Queen's something. What that something was he didn't yet know. "Do you understand why I called you here human?" the queen asked, her violet eyes fixed ahead, though Elias felt them piercing him through. I think so, your majesty," he said carefully, "but I am not sure." She stopped walking and turned. Her gaze was sharp yet not cruel. "Most humans are not brave enough to look at me and speak truthfully. You are. That is why I am interested in you. But interest is dangerous," Elias warned. "The galaxy does not like humans. It does not like the bold. And it fears the unexpected." Elias nodded, though his pulse quickened. He had been aware of the danger since the first moment he fixed her life support field, but now it was clear he was not merely under observation. He was in the middle of a storm he did not yet fully understand. They entered the command bridge, where dozens of alien officers monitored star charts, energy grids, and tactical data. Some paused to glance at him, but all quickly averted their eyes. They had heard the stories, the human who dared to act without fear. No one dared speak to him. The queen led him to a private observation deck overlooking a massive nebula. Its colors shimmered like molten crystal, a perfect backdrop to her imposing figure. "Look at that," she said softly, "and tell me what you see." Elias squinted, unsure how to respond. "I see beauty, your majesty, colors, stars, gas, and dust moving in patterns I cannot fully predict." "Predict," she repeated. "Humans predict sometimes too much. However, you acted without prediction yesterday. You saw a problem and solved it. That is rare. That is why I watch you." Elias swallowed. "I acted because it was right, not because I thought it would impress you." Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. "Most beings would have frozen or fled or begged. You did not. You acted." The bridge lights dimmed slightly, and she continued. "Elias, I am curious about humans. I have seen them in war and diplomacy, in trade. You are different. You fight not always to win. You fight for something you believe is right. That is confusing and dangerous." He met her gaze without hesitation. "Then perhaps humans are dangerous because they choose differently." For a moment, the queen said nothing. Then she nodded almost imperceptibly. "Perhaps." Days passed aboard her ship. Elias worked beside engineers and scientists far advanced beyond what humans could understand. He learned to integrate human logic with alien technology. Systems that required a dozen aliens working together could be repaired or improved by one human hand, guided by intuition and ingenuity. The crew watched with awe. Some were skeptical, some were wary. But all could not deny it. This human, this fragile-looking human, changed the ship. Not through strength, not through weapons, but through mind and courage. One night, the queen summoned him again to her quarters. Unlike the cold halls of the bridge, this room was warm and luminous, bathed in soft light from the walls themselves. A large window overlooked a distant star cluster, its light painting patterns across the floor. "You have grown bold," she said, her tone calm but sharp. "You are learning quickly, you are useful." "I am learning from the best," Elias replied, careful to stay respectful. Yet he did not bow. That was a rule he had long decided not to break. Respect, yes. Submission, no. She studied him. "You are different. Humans are usually too proud or too fearful. You are neither, and that makes you dangerous. Do you understand?" "I understand," Elias said. "Dangerous, yes, but I am also alive because you let me be." The queen tilted her head. "Alive and useful. Do you know why that matters?" He shook his head. "No, your majesty. It matters because the galaxy expects humans to be weak, to bow, to die quietly. They do not expect choice." Her violet eyes glimmered. "They do not expect courage." Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. He was not naive. He knew that being noticed by the queen was not without risk. Every other species would see him as a threat, a tool, or a target. And yet, he did not feel fear, not truly. He felt a strange confidence. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they adapted. And perhaps that was exactly what the queen had seen in him. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council convened in secret chambers across distant star systems. Word had spread. The human who had spoken without fear, the human who had saved Queen Violet, still lived. And not only that, he had gained her attention. "This is unacceptable," hissed one alien delegate, a reptilian commander from the Irith sector. "Humans are supposed to be weak. They are not supposed to influence a queen of the Astrix dominion." "Influence?" asked a crystalline diplomat. "He has no rank, he has no power, he is nothing." "That is exactly why it is dangerous," the reptilian spat. "No rank, no power. And yet the queen listens to him. The galaxy cannot allow this." Plots formed. Assassins were hired. Sabotage missions were planned. Every faction saw the human as a spark that could ignite rebellion, revolution, and disaster. And yet they underestimated the one thing humans had always had: unpredictability. Back aboard the Queen's flagship, Elias continued to work beside her, gaining her trust and learning the inner workings of her empire. One day they were inspecting the tactical systems when an unexpected alert appeared on the screens. "An attack?" Elias asked, alarm rising. The Queen's expression remained calm. "Not yet, but one will come. They are already moving. The Council fears what they do not control." "Then we must prepare." "No," she said softly. "We must survive first, and then we will show them humans are not weak." Elias realized something profound in that moment. She was not planning war for conquest. She was planning war to protect. And he was now part of that protection. The next day they trained, not in combat but in strategy. The Queen taught him how to read fleets, anticipate moves, and manipulate power without firing a shot. Elias absorbed it all, his human mind connecting dots others would miss. He noticed patterns in alien behavior, weaknesses in planning, and opportunities to turn danger into advantage. The Queen observed him silently during every session. Sometimes she would smile, almost imperceptibly, when he suggested a tactic she had not considered. She never praised, she never mocked. She only acknowledged with a glance that he had grown. Weeks passed. Then the first attempt came. A small fleet of council ships appeared on the sensors, cloaked until the last moment. Their mission was clear: destroy the Queen and, along with her, humanity's representative. Elias' pulse quickened, but he did not panic. He moved through the command bridge, adjusting power flows, recalculating shields, and offering suggestions faster than any officer could keep up. The Queen watched, impressed. "You are calm," she said quietly. "That is rare." "I have no choice," Elias replied. "I am here and I will act." When the fleet engaged, chaos erupted. Beams of energy sliced through space. Shields flared and collapsed, but the Queen and Elias moved as one, not physically but strategically. Human ingenuity guided alien might. The attack was repelled, not through brute force, but through precise calculation, quick adaptation, and unexpected maneuvers. The Council's fleet fled, humiliated and confused. The galaxy would speak of this for weeks. A human had helped the most feared queen survive an attack. And the Queen, she regarded Elias with something new in her eyes: respect. Not for his species, not for his courage, but for his mind. "You have proven something, human. You survive not because you are strong, but because you are clever. That is rare, that is valuable." Elias felt something stir in him. Pride, perhaps, but more than that, a realization. Humanity had always been underestimated, and yet even in the face of empires and queens, humans could shape events. As calm returned, the Queen summoned him to her private quarters. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke softly, almost a whisper. "Elias Ward, I did not choose you for your skills alone." He blinked. "Then, why?" She did not answer immediately. She walked past him to the observation window, looking out at the stars. "Because you are human, and humans are not bound by the rules of the galaxy. You think, you act, you survive, and that intrigues me. Dangerous creatures are often the most interesting." Elias stood quietly, unsure how to respond. Words felt unnecessary. The stars outside were witness to the unspoken truth. He was no longer just a human engineer. He was something more, something the galaxy had never seen before. And the Queen, she had noticed him, not as a tool, not as a servant, not as a mortal to crush or command, but as someone who could stand beside her, even if only in intellect, even if only in spirit. "Remember," she said finally, turning to face him, her eyes glimmering. "The galaxy will try to crush you, it will try to erase your kind, but I have chosen to see you. And that is not something easily forgotten." Elias swallowed, understanding fully what she meant. He had stepped into a storm the galaxy had not predicted. But he also realized something. With the Queen at his side, humanity had a chance to survive, to prove itself, and perhaps to change the fate of the stars. The galaxy had never paid much attention to humans. To most alien civilizations, humanity was small, weak, and inconsequential. Yet in the past weeks, one human had done what no one else had dared. He had spoken to Queen Violet as an equal, fixed her systems when no alien could, and survived a direct encounter with the most feared being in known space. Elias Ward knew that surviving the Queen's observation was only the beginning. He could feel the shift in the galaxy, the whispers of fear, curiosity, and envy spreading faster than any starship could fly. Every transmission, every diplomatic channel carried his name. Some celebrated him as a hero, others saw him as a threat, and many plotted his death. The first warning came quietly. Elias was reviewing a set of star maps with the Queen, learning the subtle art of interstellar navigation and fleet coordination. "Elias," the Queen said without turning, "do you feel it?" "Feel what, Your Majesty?" he asked. "The change, the currents of attention. The Council knows about you. They do not approve. Soon someone will try to remove you." Elias frowned. "Remove me?" "Assassinate you," she said bluntly. "Humans are unpredictable, and that makes them dangerous. The galaxy fears what it cannot control. You cannot hide now." Elias' pulse quickened, but he did not panic. He had learned to think fast. "Then we prepare, we anticipate, we adapt." The Queen's lips curved slightly. "You speak like a true human. Clever but daring, I approve. But this is more than cleverness can solve." The warning came faster than expected. A sudden alert on the bridge showed multiple high-speed vessels moving in stealth toward the flagship. Cloaked and silent until the last moment, their weapons systems were primed. "They are here," said one alien officer, his voice trembling. "The Council's forces." They aimed to strike immediately. Elias ran to the tactical console, analyzing the incoming fleet. They were numerous but not coordinated perfectly. Their approach was aggressive, predictable in its own arrogance. "They underestimate the human," one officer muttered. "They think he will panic. They think he is weak." Elias did not hear the remark. His mind was already calculating, improvising. Every shield matrix, every energy conduit, every auxiliary thruster could be adjusted to turn danger into advantage. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, but they were adaptable, quick-thinking, and willing to take risks that aliens would never consider. The attack hit with sudden violence. Energy beams ripped through the void, shaking the flagship. Alarms blared. Crew members scrambled, many unsure of what to do. The Queen stood silently, observing as though she already knew the outcome. Elias worked. He rerouted power to shields, rerouted energy to auxiliary defenses, and recalibrated weapons to cover weak points. He noticed subtle flaws in the attacking fleet's formation, gaps no alien strategist had caught. "Your Majesty," he said calmly, "they are exposed. If we focus energy here and here, we can force them to overextend. Their own formations will trap them." The Queen's eyes narrowed, approving. "Do it, human, show me your way." With the Queen's authority backing him, Elias coordinated the response. Alien officers followed his guidance, often reluctantly, but they had no choice. The human's logic was sound, precise, and deadly efficient. In minutes, the attacking fleet was thrown into disarray, some ships destroyed, others fleeing in confusion. But the real threat had not yet come. Among the attackers, a small stealth craft made its way inside the flagship's outer perimeter, cloaked perfectly. Its target, the Queen herself. Elias noticed the anomaly immediately. "There is an intruder," he said, pointing at a minor sensor fluctuation. "Cloaked." Approaching the Queen's chamber, the Queen's hand went to a control console. "I know, stand back, human, this is not your fight." Elias shook his head. "No, this is my fight, Your Majesty. If they reach you," he did not finish. Instead, he activated auxiliary systems to block the stealth craft, rerouted power to defensive turrets, and prepared a countermeasure. The intruder fired, beams slicing through the air, but Elias' quick thinking redirected the energy, causing a feedback surge that disabled the craft without damaging the Queen or her ship. The Queen looked at him, impressed. "You saved me." "I did what needed to be done," Elias replied simply. "That is all." News of the attack spread across the galaxy. For the first time, many civilizations realized humans were not weak. A single human had not only survived an attack by multiple fleets, but had protected the most powerful queen alive. Rumors spread that humans were no longer a species to ignore. At the Galactic Council, outrage boiled over. "This cannot stand," the reptilian commander snarled. "They are insignificant. They must be crushed." "Crushed," hissed another delegate. "A human has just outmaneuvered fleets we consider elite. This is no longer a trivial matter. Humanity is dangerous." Plans for larger assaults began forming immediately. The Council underestimated humans for centuries, and now they were learning the hard way. Humans did not fight by the rules. They fought to survive, to protect, and to adapt. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship, Elias continued to impress the Queen. He was no longer just an engineer. He was a strategist, a tactician, a mind capable of seeing angles no alien could predict. And the Queen, for the first time in centuries, found herself intrigued, not by politics, not by conquest, but by the human before her. "You are remarkable," she said one evening as they watched the stars drift by the observation window. "Not for your strength, but for your mind. Most humans would have died weeks ago. You survive it because you think differently. That is rare." Elias shook his head. "I survive because I act when action is needed. I do what is right, that is all." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "You are, unlike any human I have seen, you challenge expectations, and that is dangerous for everyone." He met her gaze. "Dangerous, yes, but necessary. Sometimes survival depends on daring to do what others fear." The Queen studied him silently, then turned back to the stars. "Yes, that is why I notice you." Days passed without further attack, but the tension never left the ship. Elias trained with the Queen's officers, learning fleet coordination, diplomacy, and the subtle art of commanding respect without fear. His presence alone shifted the morale of the crew. Aliens who had been wary now watched him closely, some with admiration, others with suspicion. One evening, an officer approached him privately. "Human, I do not understand you. How can you face a queen, face death, and yet remain calm?" Elias looked at him, tired but determined. "I do not fight because I am fearless. I fight because I must. The Queen, she trusts me, and if I do not act, lives are lost. That is reason enough." The officer nodded slowly. "Your species is strange. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." But the galaxy would not wait quietly. Another fleet formed in secret, stronger, more coordinated. This time their goal was clear: eliminate the human who had dared to act and punish the Queen for allowing him to live. Elias sensed it coming. "Your Majesty," he said, standing at the observation deck, "another attack is inevitable. They will not stop until they kill me or take you." The Queen did not flinch. "Let them come. They will learn what humans can do when pushed. And they will learn what I will do to protect those I choose." Her words were not a threat, they were a promise. The next attack came without warning. Hundreds of ships descended on the flagship, lasers cutting through the void, missiles streaking like comets. Chaos erupted. The Queen commanded her fleet with precision, while Elias coordinated the defense, predicting every move, finding every weakness. During the battle, the Queen was nearly struck by a plasma burst. Instinctively, Elias redirected the ship's energy shields, pushing them to their limit, and took the brunt of the blast himself. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but the Queen remained unharmed. "You saved me again," she said, her voice a mix of surprise and admiration. "I do what is necessary," he replied, brushing off debris. "That is all any human can do." By the end of the battle, the attacking fleet had retreated in chaos. The galaxy witnessed a human not only survive, but turn the tide of a fight involving one of the most powerful queens alive. Across star systems, reports spread like wildfire. Humans were not weak. Humans were not to be ignored. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous, clever. The Queen regarded Elias silently. "The galaxy sees humans differently now," she said. "They will fear you and envy you, and yet I have chosen to notice you. That is rare." Elias met her gaze, understanding the weight of her words. He had become more than a human engineer. He had become a symbol of humanity's potential. A single human, standing boldly in the midst of interstellar power, had changed the perception of an entire galaxy. And he knew, deep in his heart, that this was only the beginning. The flagship of Queen Violet sailed silently through the edge of the Styx dominion, a territory where thousands of worlds owed fealty to her, and countless fleets were ready to enforce her rule. To most rulers, her empire was unshakable, a perfect machine of power, order, and fear. But Queen Violet was changing, and the galaxy, unprepared, would soon feel the tremors. Elias Ward had been aboard her flagship for months now. From the first moment he had fixed her life support system, he had been under the Queen's watchful gaze. His role had grown. He was no longer merely an engineer. He had become her advisor, strategist, and confidant. He helped her solve technological problems, anticipate attacks, and even manage diplomatic negotiations. And yet, he remained a human, a species regarded as weak, fragile, and insignificant by most of the galaxy. The unrest began quietly. A council of nobles aboard the Queen's flagship gathered in secret chambers. They had watched the human for weeks. His presence was tolerated only because the Queen allowed it. but many feared that toleration was not enough. "This is intolerable," hissed one noble, a tall, thin alien with skin like polished bronze. "The queen allows a human to live among us, advise her, even command respect. It is disgraceful." "It is more than disgraceful," another growled. "It is dangerous. The human, he is changing the queen. We cannot let this continue. He must be removed, immediately." They plotted in secret, sending encrypted messages to the nearest loyal fleets. They would strike, they decided, during a royal transit, when the queen's ship passed through a remote sector. Their goal was simple: eliminate the human. If they failed, the queen herself would be blamed for failing to maintain the sanctity of her rule. Elias sensed the tension, though he could not yet see the plot. The queen, however, noticed everything. She approached him one evening as he was reviewing star maps in the observation deck. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. "Feel what?" Elias replied, not moving his gaze from the constellations outside. "The currents of descent," she said. "Some of my own nobles do not approve of your presence. They whisper, they plot, they believe a human should not stand beside me. They believe you are unworthy." "I am only human," Elias said calmly. "I do not seek to challenge your rule, I only wish to help." "And that is why they fear you," she said. "Because you are not trying to rule, yet you influence outcomes. You do not act for power, but for reason. And that is dangerous." Elias paused, absorbing her words. "Then, what should we do?" The queen studied him for a long moment. "We will show them that choice is stronger than tradition, and that I will not bow to fear, even from my own people." The first strike came swiftly. A fleet loyal to the dissenting nobles appeared without warning, emerging from hidden jump points in the nearby system. Their ships were fast, well-armed, and ruthless. "Elias," the queen said, standing beside him on the tactical bridge, "they intend to test me and to see if you can survive." "I will protect you," Elias said simply. "That is all a human can promise." The battle began. Energy beams sliced through space, missiles streaked across the void, and the flagship shook under repeated hits. Elias worked beside the queen, recalibrating shields, rerouting energy, and predicting enemy movements. His strategies were unconventional but effective, diverting power to weak points, using enemy aggression against them, and exploiting patterns no alien strategist would notice. The queen's fleet responded under his guidance, cutting through enemy lines with precision. Within hours, the rebellious fleet was in chaos. Many ships were destroyed. The rest fled in disarray, their commanders humiliated. Afterward, the queen turned to Elias. "You are remarkable," she said. "Most humans would have died, most would have failed, but you adapt. You survive, you act. That is why I have noticed you." Elias shook his head. "I do not seek recognition, I only act when it is needed." "And yet your actions have changed the galaxy's perception of your species," she said. "You are no longer merely a human, you are a symbol." The Council of Nobles, enraged by their failure, gathered in secrecy once more. "The human survives again," one hissed. "He has the queen's favor. If we act against him, we risk her wrath. Yet we cannot allow this to continue. We must find another way." It was then that Queen Virelith made an unthinkable decision. She summoned Elias to the throne room, a chamber where centuries of rulers had held court, where tradition demanded obedience, and where humans had never been welcome. "Elias Ward," she said, her voice echoing through the marble chamber. "You have survived attacks, protected me, and shown wisdom beyond your years. You are no longer a guest aboard my ship. You are—" The room fell silent. Nobles watched, their eyes wide. Many gasped. Aliens whispered among themselves. "You are my chosen consort," the queen declared. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. The council was in shock. Aliens stared at Elias, disbelief written on their faces. Humans were not rulers. Humans were weak. Humans were insignificant. Yet here was one, elevated above centuries of tradition, placed at the side of the most powerful queen in the galaxy. Elias felt the weight of the decision settle over him. This was not a position he had sought. He had never asked for power, for title, or for influence. But the queen had chosen him, and with that choice came responsibility. I cannot accept such a title lightly," he said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "You have no choice," the queen replied, a faint smile on her lips. "Not in the way you think. This is not about ambition. This is about survival. My empire needs someone who sees beyond fear, beyond tradition, and that is you." Elias bowed his head slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. "Then I will stand beside you, your majesty, not for power, but because it is right." The queen nodded, and for the first time she allowed a hint of warmth in her gaze. Good, that is all I ask. The news of Ilia's new status spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The human who had once been a simple engineer was now publicly declared the chosen consort of Queen Violet. Some species were shocked, unable to believe it. Others feared the implications. A human, side by side with the most powerful ruler in the galaxy, would forever change the balance of power. Humans were no longer weak, no longer insignificant. They were now symbols of potential, of courage, of unpredictability. The dissenting nobles seethed. They could not challenge the queen openly, they risked civil war, and they feared the human who had just saved her multiple times. And yet their resentment grew. A few plotted in secret, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Ilias, despite the title, remained humble. He did not seek to command fleets or enforce laws. Instead, he continued to work alongside the queen, solving problems, strategizing, and protecting her. And yet the galaxy watched him differently now. Every star system, every fleet, every council chamber spoke of the human who had survived the queen's favor. In private, the queen spoke to him often. "Do you realize what this means, Ilias?" she asked one evening as they watched the stars drift by. "I do," he replied. "It means danger, it means expectation, but it also means trust. You trust me, your majesty, that is more than most humans could ever hope for." "And you do not fear me," she said, her voice softening. "That is rare, that is why I chose you. Not for your strength, not for your skill, but because you are human, and humanity surprises me even now." Ilias smiled faintly. "Then perhaps that is why humans endure, not because we are strong, but because we are willing to act when action is needed." The queen's eyes gleamed. "Yes, that is why I chose you." The rebellion did not end. Small fleets continued to test the queen's rule. Some tried to discredit Ilias, spreading rumors about humans and their supposed weaknesses. Others attempted sabotage, hoping to strike while the flagship was away from protected sectors. But Ilias and the queen were prepared. Every move was anticipated, every threat countered. And every time the galaxy saw the same truth: humans were not weak. Humans were not powerless. Humans were clever, courageous, and capable of shaping events on a galactic scale. The galaxy began to speak differently of humans. They were no longer a curiosity. They were now recognized as a species to respect, to fear, and to consider carefully. The queen gathered her inner circle for a council meeting. Ilias stood beside her, silent but alert. "You have all seen what humans can do," the queen said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "This one," she gestured toward Ilias, "is not a mere mortal. He represents potential, courage, and insight. We will not allow tradition or fear to dictate the future of this empire. Those who oppose him oppose me, and those who oppose me face consequences." Murmurs filled the room, but the message was clear. The era of underestimating humanity was over. Ilias, standing quietly beside the queen, understood his role, not as a ruler, not as a conqueror, but as a human who had dared to act, who had survived, and who now stood at the center of the galaxy's attention. He felt a strange calm. Humanity had always been underestimated. Yet here he was, chosen by the most powerful queen in the galaxy, and the galaxy had no choice but to notice.